to shine. Stepping hot, no pause, hands up when we walk. Ali set the pace, Mystic brings a spark. Steve in the cut, now the whole block start. Cold on the edge till we hit. I don't call that name and we break it down, 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 down. Game time grind. Game time grind. Ali, Mystic, Steve, all in line. Game time grind. Game time grind. Bring the raw back. We on tonight.
Good evening, good day, good afternoon, good morning to some, depending on where you're watching from around the world. This is Game Time Grind right here on the 4th and 2U Network, and it's another exclusive episode. What is going on, gentlemen? We finally have Mystic back in the room. How you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Sorry, trying to adjust some audio. You were sounding super quiet on my end. It's a me thing. It's not a you thing. It is okay. It is okay. We're doing good now. Happy to be here. Yeah, life's just busy sometimes, right? It's just those unexpected things. You're like, hey, everything is good, and then, hey, well, where'd that come from? That's just kind of how my life goes sometimes.
I completely understand it. Mystic is dealing with some ex-girlfriend. It's not me. It's you. It's not you, it's me. It sounds like a messed up relationship. No, I'm messing with you. But no, I completely understand, man. Not a lot of people know this, but I've been in and out of the hospital, not for myself, but for a family member, right? Dealing with stuff, and with all the different health issues and stuff that I have a family member that's going through. It can be kind of hectic, right? Life throws curveballs. It's how hard you can hit the curveball away. That's what counts. And for me, it is what it is, man. We keep trucking through. What's going on with you, Steve?
Well, not much. Still recovering from being on the shelf all week, but nothing near as serious as what's going on with y'all. So I'm doing good, though.
I had a really great joke lined up when you said that, but I'm not going to say it because it would be completely inappropriate. Everybody hit the like button. Now I should say it, but no, it's okay. I'll keep it completely private because it's really bad. Everybody hit the like button. Subscribe if you're brand new. Turn on the notification bell. We've had some great content. If you're just watching, Tuesday's show is the continuation show of the Alabama breakdown, and is Kellen DeBoer the right guy? Check out that show if you missed it. I know, even though this is a pre-record, I know that show's a banger. Definitely check it out. Check out the original episode that was last Tuesday as well, because it's part of a 2-part series. This show is a continuation of Thursday's show, which is really who is the next dynasty of college football, right? We've talked about various teams. I mentioned in last Thursday episode that I think Texas is right there at the cusp based on all the moves they made. They have the money. They have all the talent in the world. They have the quarterback. They have, in my opinion, I think Sarkisian is one of the best coaches in college football. One of the best, not the best. Just going to point that out. That's currently available. And I think that, there's a lot to be had there. That's why I kind of had them there. Ohio State, on the other hand, a lot of people are like, why don't you go for Ohio State being the next dynasty? Well, that's great. We can definitely do that. But I don't know. For me, it depends on how you exactly evaluate teams and determine if they are a dynasty or not. Or maybe they're on the cusp of becoming a dynasty, right? Ohio State has, I'll tell you, they do have a proven track record. They have a head coach that's like 80-12. Maybe it's higher than that. but it's like that big of winning percentage. They have 5-star upon 5-star upon 4-star recruits every year, top 5 recruiting class like 3 years in a row, right? They have arguably the best player in all of college football in Jeremiah Smith. They have one, I would say, more than likely top 4 quarterback in college football with Julian Sayin, and they have a lot to be desired, right? The question is, they just lost a crap ton of players on the defensive front. Now, I know they have talent coming in, no problem, but can the defensive side of the ball, can it continue the success that it's had? Can it produce at the level that it's had for the last 2 or 3 seasons? That is the question, right? And for me, I don't know. I don't know yet. Just like I don't like some of the teams that we named off, or the top 5 teams or top 7 teams, I would say, that could possibly be that next dynasty. There's a lot of we don't knows. There's not. But tonight, I'm going to give Steve and Mystic and myself the opportunity to discuss Indiana. Indiana is a team that I think might be on that cusp. Maybe they should be in this top 7. But we're going to talk about it tonight. There's a lot of stuff we're going to break down when it comes to Indiana. Everybody hit the like button. Before we get into it, though, anything you guys want to add?
Yeah, I think I just want to throw in I had a thought that, like, there's so many also different conversations about what the dynasty, and what it could be, in the sense of, if we're talking all time, then you have multiple all time dynasties, right? And I think this might explain more of where I'm coming from. I don't take away from any of those teams, because in the all time, Ohio State has multiple national championships, right? That would put them in the dynasty of college football, right? I think this is going to go towards what I'm saying. Indiana's not there yet, because they just won their first national championship. You got to win 3 or more to be considered that all time, or, in my opinion, 3 in like 5 to 6 years, right? Mm-hmm. So just to throw that out there, there's so many ways you could look at this conversation, just to throw out the angles, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I want to say, and I could be wrong about this, don't quote me on this. This is just me thinking at the top of my head, and maybe Steve can look this up. Doesn't Notre Dame have like the all-time national championships versus any other college football program? Isn't it Notre Dame? Nobody knows? I guess it's just me. I don't know.
I have no idea. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I want to say it's Notre Dame. At one point, like 90% of the NFL was out of Notre Dame players. Let me see here. Let me look that up. Who has the most?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, while y'all are looking that up, I mean, Mystic, to the point of the conversation, right? Ollie and I were disagreeing on what even sort of looking for
a dynasty was.
What a dynasty was to begin with. I don't believe a dynasty is just a team that has great recruiting and has been to a national championship. If I said you had to have won at least 2 in the last 5 years to even be considered into maybe being one, and even then, it has to come with years of dominating. You can't just be a team that's won one and then missed the playoffs, or kind of was a good team over a couple years and then finally made it to one, and then was kind of good the next year. You know what I mean? Like, it had to be consistent domination over at least a 5-year stretch, where in that 5 years you won at least 2 national championships. You were in contention for a national championship in at least 4 of those 5 years.
So to answer the question I had of who has the most championships, boy, was I wrong. Holy crap. The team that's number 1, I would not expect.
That's what I'm seeing. If we're seeing the same thing, I never would have guessed that, dude.
I will give you a hint, Steve. Ivy League.
Ivy League, what? Princeton? I don't know.
Surprising, they're number 3 on the list with 15
Well, I mean,
championships.
to be fair, the oldest schools are likely to have a chance to be up there, and the Ivy
Yeah,
League
you're
are
absolutely right.
that.
So the leader, surprisingly, and this is according to NCAA.com, this is where I'm getting the information, is Yale. Yale University has 18 championships. Granted, their last one was like 1927, to be fair.
It's
Then
still
it's,
wild.
then it's Alabama. Alabama has been the dynasty, if you want to look at that, at number 2.
Nope.
Right. Their last one was 2020. And then Princeton, then followed by Notre Dame. I knew Notre Dame was up there. I just didn't know how far. They have 13. Alabama has 16. So 16, they have 3 more. And then according to NCAA.com, they say that Michigan has 10 and Ohio State has 9. So that's number 5 and number 6.
Yep,
Hey, shout
yep,
out to Mike McDaniel for Yale, though. That's funny.
for
I know
real.
that's pretty funny, right? But yeah, so it's just really interesting. Who has the most championships, who's been most dominant. I wanted to say Notre Dame was the most dominant because of the fact that you look at, it just felt like every other year it was back in the day, it was always Notre Dame winning. And if Notre Dame wasn't winning, they got players drafted into the NFL. A lot of them, right? I don't know. It's just kind of my perspective and what I know of the Notre Dame program. Anything else before we get started, gentlemen? Because we're gonna start breaking this egg open and get cracking.
Go for it.
All right. Is Indiana officially a college football powerhouse, or was 2025 a 1-year explosion? That is the question. I mean, Indiana enters the 2026 program in position that would have sounded impossible 2 years ago, to be 100% honest, but they are the defending undefeated national champion. Curt Cignetti's program followed an 11-win breakthrough in 2024 by going 16-0 in 2025, right? Winning the Big Ten and defeating Alabama, Oregon, Miami. They won the whole thing. In fact, they even beat Ohio State in that same year last season. And, the question is no longer whether Indiana belongs, is whether the Hoosiers can replace elite personnel and recruit championship level to keep the story alive, to start a new story. Are they cusp of being a dynasty? That's really what the question is. To be honest, Indiana is a championship program, but I don't know if they're a dynasty yet. A dynasty requires sustained dominance, as Steve broke down the other night. I think there's a lot more to building a dynasty than just being dominant. It's dominating the recruiting world, having dominating elite coaches, dominating in the financial sense of the NIL, and having the biggest the most money driven sport that you're gaining all this funds from that. And in addition, one thing you don't look at is looking at their defense. Is their defense still going to be a top 5, top 4 defense too? Having an elite defense is a key to building that dynasty as well. So there's a lot of different makeups of it. I think the fair thing to do at this point, Steve, let's find out from Mystic, who wasn't part of that show. Mystic, what do you think are like requirements for a team to be called a dynasty? Like, what are some of the building blocks of a dynasty in your opinion?
So, I mean, I was always brought up in the sense of, like, again, you got to win like 3 or more championships if we're talking all time, and winning 3 in a 5-year span put you in like the dynasty of that current era is how I look at it. I mean, you look at the three-peats by the Chicago Bulls teams back in the 90s. You look at the three-peat by the Lakers in early 2000s. Like there's not many three-peats you see, right? Obviously, but then you break it down from there and you see teams that were able to win 2 or 3 within a 5-year span. Maybe it took them 6 years, right? But again, to your guys' point, they were also consistently being there. It wasn't that they went all in, won it all, had nothing the next year, and then got it all the next year. Like, no, this is long, self-sustained being a contender, and then winning at the highest level too. Not just I'm favored, I'm gonna be here. You know, okay, cool. I made it to the second round. I lost. Like, no, you're gonna be basically in the national championship or basically what the semis every year.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thoughts.
Okay. I mean, for me, it goes beyond the results and what happens on the field itself, right? You have to have the elite transfer portal and recruiting programs built nationally, right? You need that. You look at the Alabama. We just mentioned Alabama outside of Yale, right? Alabama currently in the new era of football has been the most dominant. They have over 18. I think I said they had like over 18 championships or something like that. It's something ridiculous.
Yeah,
right?
Yale has 18.
Or I'm sorry, Alabama has had 16, I believe.
Yes, Alabama has 16.
So they have 16. So what I'm trying to say is you look at their program since Nick Saban was there, they reinvented what recruiting looks like, right? They recruited at a high level. Not only did they go after the top guys, they went after the guys right behind them as well. So you had 1A, 1B for every position, right? That's how they recruited. And they did that so effectively that they built this machine at Alabama that basically as soon as they had talent drafted, number 1 overall or whatever, they had the next guy already coming in, just performing just as good, breaking that person's record, right? They had it consistently. And then you look at their defense. Their defense has always been one of their top things that they've had over the years. And I think that's a must thing when it comes to to their dynasty. Essentially, you have to have a top defense. You look at their coaches. I mean, shit, Nick Saban is elite as you can get. I don't think anybody that falls under the Nick Saban program of coaches when he's hired as a head coach, I don't think you can get any more elite than that. That's the top of the top, right? The creme brulee, or if you want to call it that, or whatever you say it, right? And then you look at what the school brings in financially, the financial backing that they have, the NIL, they have the whole ESPN, the SEC, all of that just fuels the fire when it comes to dynasty. I think a lot of that, not just what happens actually on the field, counts just as much. And the reason I say that is because without the elite program, without the top defense, without the elite coaches and stuff, you may not get that dominance that is on the field. You know what I'm saying? Because here's the flip side of it. Let's say it's solely just based on the dominance that you have on the field, then you could argue that anybody could be that top dynasty and could become a dynasty at any point, right? So that's just my opinion. What do you guys think of that? Do you guys think there's any more like those other building blocks? Do they matter at all in this argument, or is it just strictly on wins?
I mean, I still stand pat that to be considered a dynasty, you have to be considered dominant. You have to be considered the best, if not one of the two. Actually, no, you have to be the best team in the entire league. Like it's just a dynasty. Otherwise, you can make an argument like I kind of explained in the last show. Otherwise, any team that's really good could be considered a dynasty. You could consider Buffalo a dynasty because they had one of the best teams in the league since basically 2019, but they aren't accomplishing anything like the Kansas City Chiefs are. I know, again, we said it was different in college, but it's still the same basis. To be a dynasty means you are the best team over a long stretch of time, because then otherwise anybody could be a dynasty.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. What are your thoughts as well, Mystic?
So I'd say we're all saying things that matter, and that that I don't want to say truth, but that people understand the truth somewhere in the middle of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, you do need organization to work top to bottom. You need your, AD is just as important as your head coach when it comes to some of these things, right? So like that obviously that makes sense. So being able to have all that, have the results on the field, being one of the best teams, in the nation year in and year out, all of those things go together. You can't just say that one's more important than the other, because they all go hand in hand in success.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you really look at the assessment of the Indiana program currently, right? Are they a 2026 championship contender? I would say yes. They still have firepower on that team. They still have Curt Cignetti. They brought in a big time quarterback in the transfer portal. I'm not going to say he's one of the top people. He's definitely an effective and can really bring in the production just as good, almost possibly at the same level that Fernando Mendoza did, right? You look, are they likely a Big Ten contender? Absolutely. Guaranteed playoff team. I'm on the side that I don't think anything is guaranteed. And I'm going to say no, they're not necessarily a guaranteed playoff contender, but that's only because of the major turnover that Indiana's had, right? Potential emerging dynasty, yeah, they have that. Back-to-back years where Indiana was definitely a proven winner and actually won the national championship. So I have to give it to them that, especially going undefeated. And established dynasty, or have they established a dynasty yet? Not necessarily yet, no. Indiana has the coaching continuity, the transfer portal operation, and improving recruiting necessary to remain near the top. However, the Hoosiers must prove their model works. They have to prove this year that it works. If they come in this year and let's say they are at the top of their ball game, they're winning games left, right, and center, they make the playoffs, they go on a deep run, even if they don't win the national championship again, I could argue that they are definitely on the dynasty talk at that point, because they've shown 3 straight years of production. The transformation under Cignetti is very, very important as well. Cignetti has changed Indiana's identity from historically consistent program to one of the college's football's most disciplined and efficient teams. His greatest accomplishments has not simply been acquiring talent, it has been creating a repeatable operational system. Hold on one second. I apologize. What in the world is going on? Gotta love these telemarketers calling you left, right, and center, right? Right in the middle of a show, too. I'm thinking it's important, like my mom or something. So that's why I had to check. But yeah, so Curt Cignetti has changed the identity, from a historical consistent program to one of the college's football's most disciplined, efficient teams. His greatest accomplishment has not simply been acquiring talent, it's been creating a repeatable operational system. Indiana's approach has established experienced quarterbacks who process the game quickly, veteran offensive linemen, receivers who understand spacing and routing adjustments, defensive players with production rather than recruiting hype, aggressive transfer portal evaluation, strong coaching continuity, low penalty, low turnover football, and situational dominance on third down and in the red zone. All of that has really proven to be proof that the system works. The major coaching structure remains intact for 2026. So pretty much everyone is pretty much there. You have Cignetti, Bryant Haynes remains the defensive coordinator, and linebacker and the linebacker coach still remains there as well. The continuity is one of Indiana's strongest dynasty arguments. Many championship programs decline after a coach leaves, or maybe goes to a new school. We've seen that happen. Since we're NFL fans, I'll use the Patriots for example, right? It felt like every time that McDaniels, not Mike McDaniel, but McDaniels, the offensive coordinator for New England, every time he left, that team took a dip. It just never worked out, right? It just felt like that way. And he'd come back and they would refigure out their offense and have a really producive year. That's kind of what happens to a lot of college teams. Will this happen to Indiana? I don't think so, because they've kept the continuity. So you can throw that argument out of the way. What do you guys think? What they have built? Is it a proven program? Is there more to be worried about?
I'll let Steve. I'll let you have your piece, and I'll say my piece there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you're the Indiana guy here, you can be the capstone for this stuff. I think they absolutely are, and I meant to answer the following question too, so I'll kind of answer it all at the same time. I think they're absolutely a powerhouse team. I think what Curt Cignetti did with no 5-star recruits and a bunch of veteran, 2, 3-star, 4-star guys, with those guys, what he did proved it. I mean, the year before he had 11 wins. He had an argument to should have maybe been in the playoffs in 2024, right? 2025 came in, they ran the table, took a quarterback that nobody was really talking about. Let's be honest, nobody was talking about Mendoza before 2025, right? Took a quarterback who had the right skill and talent that fit the type of system that he wanted to run, and put it to full use. Took guys like Omar Cooper that nobody was talking about and really put them to work. So I would say they're absolutely a powerhouse. I think Curt Cignetti has built the team the proper way to continue this run. I can only imagine what he'll do with better talent, as long as he can rein in the personalities of those 5-star recruits, which I think his personality can do so.
Any thoughts on what Steve said, Mystic?
Man, he's killing it over here. I thought I was supposed to be the pro Indiana guy. I just I don't really have much more to add. I really don't. I mean, the dude, he's 27-2 since he's been in Indiana. Obviously, that having a 16-0 season helps. Obviously, after your first 11-win season. But as far as I'm concerned, again, this should be an 11-win team, in my opinion. 11 win or more. Cignetti, just there's something about the guy and understanding how things should be in and out. It's even in the era that we find our excuse me. About to kill myself. Excuse me. Wow. Even in the era that we find ourselves in, with all the NIL and all the money and, just Steve's point, all the personalities, that's the personality that, as a football player, you want to deal with. That's someone who it's no nonsense. You come to your job, we play football, this is how it's going to be, and we're going to win. And that's what you want when you're a competitor. You want to know you can go to those situations, and that's exactly what you're going to get out of it. Like, what you see is what you get. It's not, oh, I had all these meetings, everything's great, and then you show up and it's a 360. Like, whoa, what's really happening here? It's crazy. I'm super excited to honestly see this year. In what you were saying, Ollie, great points in the sense of this year 3, like, This is that make or break situation, in my opinion, where he is, we are going to talk about them like, yeah, they are still on that dynasty projection, or no, they fell off because there was a lot of turnover. He brought in this new class, obviously more talent than the class that he won with. So you got to do something with it. Obviously, now you got, the first 5-star wide receiver in the history of that program here coming here in the next couple of seasons, right? So I think that's all going to be good too. But yeah, we just got to see what he does this year with some of these transfers with all the rollover. But again, the dude knows how to do it the right way. He knows how to win everywhere he's been across 4 different colleges. The dude's been a winner. So I can't knock the guy.
Yeah, I completely understand. I mean, it's he's definitely a proven winner. Will the system continue to grow from year 2 to year 3 to solidify Indiana as definitely a destination that players will want to definitely take a look at going forward? Here's the reality. On a statistical standpoint, Indiana answered that question, I guess the word is empathetically, is how you say it. The Hoosiers finished 16-0. They scored 666 points and allowed only 187. Their average scoring margin was just under 30 points per game. Indiana averaged 452 yards of offense while limiting opponents to only 266 yards of offense. So on the defensive point, they really held down on other teams. They held it down. The running game improved from 165.1 yards per game in 2024 to 212.9 yards in 2025. Remember what I said, Steve, and I've been saying this for a while. The running game wins games, right? And you need to have that running game, to be there, to be consistently good, to win games, no matter how good you have it in the other positions in the wide receiver room or whatever. Without that running game, you won't be able to accomplish anything. They figured that out. Indiana also increased rushing average from 4.4 yards per carry to 5.2 yards per carry. The offense converted an extraordinary 56.5% of third downs, allowing it to control possession for an average of 33 minutes and 29 seconds per game. So defensively, Indiana permitted only 77.2 rushing yards per game, 188.8 yards passing, 11.7 points per game, 30.1% third down conversions, and 19 total offensive touchdowns across 16 games, only 19. The defense produced 46 sacks, 19 interceptions, and recovered 11 opponent fumbles. 11 is a lot. Indiana finished with a plus minus 22 turnover differential, losing only 8 turnovers while gaining 30. Damn. Fernando Mendoza completed 72% of his passes for 3,535 yards, 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And he has quarterbacks combined for 46 touchdowns, passes, and only 7 interceptions. The postseason resume, they beat Ohio State 13-10. That was one of the best, matchups, in my opinion, for a Big Ten championship game, to be honest. That was a true 1 versus 2 matchup in that game, by the way, in the Big Ten championship. Beat Alabama 38-3, beat Oregon 56-22, and beat Miami 27-21 for the national championship game, right? That is not merely a good season. It's one of the most complete championship runs in the expanded playoff era. Even just as good as actually it's better because they won the Big Ten championship. I would say Ohio State's run the year prior was the best, craziest run they've ever had, winning the 4 straight games, right? But they didn't win the Big Ten championship. So that's the only difference. That's why I'm giving it to Indiana. What do you guys think about that statistically from 2025? Like, going from 2024 to 2025, the improvements they made. What do you guys, any thoughts on this, on the stats at all? Anything you learned about it?
Yeah, you stole my thunder. The stat I was telling you before the show. Yeah, they led college football, and I think it goes to why with Josh Hoover, especially, and his talents, especially. I think he's a better athlete than Mendoza ever was. Even though Mendoza was kind of a sneaky athlete, he's a better athlete than people give him credit for. But Hoover, especially being a better athlete, being able to extend plays and make plays on the run, is going to even add more to this. But they led all college sports in time of possession. They spent, I think it was 54% of the game, something like that, with possession of the ball. It might even be closer to 60% of games with the possession of ball. That matters, right? Then you go down to they didn't allow, like, even though they had 8 fumbles on the year, they only lost one of them. So they didn't allow fumbles to end their drives either, right? So the mistake, they had an uptick in interceptions of 19, right? But shit happens. Actually, no, sorry, that's defense. Looking at the wrong stat. But they only lost one fumble all year. So like it, and then you go on to they were completing 56%, almost 57% of their third down conversions, and 55% of their fourth down conversions. So all those things that layer on to time of possession, which equals on to get that time of possessions coming from keeping from turning over the ball, keeping your ability to convert on third and fourth downs. That's ultimately gained to the success of Indiana overall, and is with Josh Hoover's ability to run, I think those only uptick. I don't think those go down.
Any thoughts you had, Mystic?
Both stats just sound like Curt Cignetti knows how to win football. He knows how to teach it. He knows how to coach it, and things are sounding very good over there. And that was actually something I wanted to bring up. Is like Fernando Mendoza was really good at doing what was asked of him in that system, right? But I do believe that this, to Steve's point, I believe the same thing. I think that this new quarterback that's in there is so much more athletic than what Fernando had. Like, yeah, he had some runs, this and that, but he just he looked like just like a piece of stone running. It's so crazy. But he got what he needed to get done at times. But I think you're going to get some more dynamic plays with the feet that you're going to have behind center now, which is going to be just what this team likes to do. They love to extend. They love to, again, maintain the clock and grind it out and make it just a long, drag out process for the other team. So I'm super excited to see where it goes. I don't know when or if you want to get into the schedule, but they got just so much time. They have, in my opinion, the first 6 weeks are going to be perfect for them to get where they need to go before they play Ohio State week 7.
We will get there, Mystic. We will definitely get there. But I like the segue that you guys are talking about when it comes to Josh Hoover. Let's talk about it. The most important question is, as we all have, Mendoza was great, but can Josh Hoover replace and do just as much, if not more, than what Mendoza did last year? Right? Hoover arrives from TCU, a redshirt senior, is listed as 6'2", 200 pounds. On3 has rated him as one of Indiana's premier portal additions in the Hoosiers transfer class. I would say this is what makes or breaks their transfer class, to be honest. Or not just their transfer class, but their whole offseason, because they really needed a quarterback. Hoover offers several qualities Indiana values: extensive power for starting experience, strong arm talent, confidence in attacking the intermediate and middle of the field, experience operating spread concepts, ability to throw with anticipation, and willingness to push the ball vertically, right? These are all things they really value at Indiana. The concern is ball security. Mendoza threw only 6 interceptions during the championship season and consistently protected the offense from negative momentum. However, has historically played a more aggressive style and must prove he can maintain explosiveness without creating unnecessary turnovers. That's the issue with Hoover, the way he plays. Indiana does not necessarily need Hoover to reproduce Mendoza's 41 passing touchdowns. It needs to operate efficiently, convert third downs, and prevent giveaways. That's what they need. The offense around him should be talented enough to carry that part of the load. What do you guys think about Hoover? Do we need him to replace Mendoza in any way, or do we just need him to be what they had said, efficient, protect the ball, and just maintain explosiveness?
I would continue with kind of what we were saying. Like, I think he's gonna need to replace Mendoza because, again, as much as we talked about Hoover being more of an athlete, Mendoza protected the ball, and he, at times now, his inability to be a better athlete, I think,
Mhm.
affected the games where the offense would sputter because he just didn't have. He had good mobility, but it's like Joe Burrow, right? Like Joe Burrow can run, and he's tough when he runs. Just like I compared him to Baker Mayfield. When you watch him run, he runs like Baker, right? He's tough, but he's just not fast. And he can get a first down, but that's about it. Like he's not taking off like Arch Manning in the freaking bowl game. What was it, 60 yards down the middle of the field for a touchdown? Like that's just not happening. Hoover can do that. He has that mobility and the ability to make more plays. It's going to open up more passing. So as long as Hoover protects the ball, which I honestly think he will, I think TCU was more of a vertical attack versus what Indiana is going to be. So I don't think he's going to be putting the ball in the same situations that he did at TCU. So I think Hoover's going to fit in just fine with that offense. Add a little more mobility to the captain behind center and really lean more into what that offense can do and maybe unlock some stuff that Mendoza just couldn't.
What are your thoughts, Mystic?
I'm kind of, man, I'm having problems today. These allergies are killing me. So I'm in the same boat. I really think that as much as I hear people say, you know, they lost a lot and this and that, again, I trust Cignetti and his process to find the guy that can thrive in his system. And I do think that Hoover's absolutely going to thrive. And I think we're going to have to be talking about him come, into the season and how dynamic, how dynamic he was throughout this year.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's come to the point, like, let's say you don't want to have him replace Mendoza, but you definitely want to make sure that he has enough talent around him. You look at the running back room, the 2025 offense was significantly more physical and balanced more than the 2024. That's why you saw improved rushing on third downs. The overall average per carry and everything was much higher. I mean, they had two really good running backs, both with Hemby and with Black, right?
Black.
That was the other running back, Steve?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Black. Was it Keelan Black?
I thought it was Tariq Black, but I could be
Maybe
wrong.
it's Tyreek Black. All right. But his last name is Black for sure. So, I mean, you look at, the running back room, you had Hemby. He was rushing for 1,120 yards. Now in 2026, you got Boston College transfer Turbo Richard is one of the most intriguing additions. He brings compact size, acceleration, open field explosiveness. You have other players like Jerion Campbell or Kuno to add depth, but Indiana may use a committee rather than rely just on one running back. So do expect some of those other running backs to really get involved. The offense success will depend heavily on whether the line can maintain the 2025 standard. Indiana averaged 5.2 yards per carry and scored 35 rushing touchdowns. So that's what they're going to have to try to replicate. A decline toward 2024 rushing numbers would place substantially more pressure on Hoover to be more like Mendoza. And when it's not working, take over the game essentially. What do you guys think about the running back room? Any thoughts there?
Well, they kept Kobe Martin.
You cut out, Steve. They kept you.
Yep. No, you're good. We'll wait for Steve to come back there. I like what he's done. I like that he's finding guys that, in my opinion, he's finding some guys that have some chips on their shoulders. They want to find a way to come revitalize or just get back to the best version of themselves. I think that's what most intrigues me is which set of these guys is going to step up, turn into the best version of themselves, and really say, I'm here to win at Indiana, football type thing.
Absolutely. I mean, even their wide receiver room, I would say, has definitely had made some improvements. They lost a lot of wide receiver. Omar Cooper's no longer there. Who was the other big time receiver they had? I can never think of his name.
Is this Surratt?
Surratt, yes, Surratt. Surratt isn't there anymore. These guys all got drafted, right? They're gone. So even their running backs. So you look at their wide receiver room, Nick Marsh, Michigan State transfer. Nick Marsh is the potential centerpiece, 6'3", 213 pounds, gives a true boundary target with size at the, very good at the catch point, yards after catch. Marsh has become a future NFL prospect from what a lot of people are saying. They also have Tyler Morris. He's a transfer out of Michigan. That's been there. They have Shaz Preston, additional depth pieces definitely, but also they just in shout out to you, Mystic or Steve, either of you, they just signed someone, didn't they, recently? A new commitment that they brought in, 5-star wide receiver recruit.
Monsoon Sales, 2027 prospect. So it'll be a year before we see him.
Yeah, but I think it's still good to point out that they're bringing in the talent, right? May not be for this season, but it's definitely talent that's definitely coming in. We'll talk a little bit more about Marshawn Sales a little bit later, but I think it's really good to have them back in the mind. I give their running back room, I'm kind of giving them like a B plus kind of, but I'm more of giving them an A in their wide receiver room. What do you guys think?
Well, I was going to say they also kept a running back from last year too that gave them 500 yards rushing and was averaging over 6.5 yards per attempt too, and Kobe Martin. So they still have familiarity in that room too that has a little bit of burn to them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they even brought in, and I think it might lean towards them still leaning on their run game. If you look at their commits, they brought in 2 freshman tight ends. Both of them are 6'4", 230 pounds. So they brought in some bigger body tight ends that are going to help. Maybe they'll start running 2 tight end sets and running that ball more, and that's only going to help Hoover too, right? What's a young quarterback's best friend? I like their wide receiver room. I think their wide receiver room is going to be solid. Again, who was talking about Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt before last year? I don't think anybody.
Absolutely true.
So, and so I mean that just leans towards what Mendoza did for them. But I think you'll see some guys pop up this year that are decent, talented wide receivers, and especially with bringing in the kid from Michigan, I think it was, right, Nick Marsh, and Shaz Preston, who was a senior. It gives them, some fresh blood in a room, which basically outside of Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt is pretty much the same. Their wide receiver room is the same. They're, like I said, they got 2 young tight ends. They brought in Brock Schott, who's a redshirt freshman transfer. He was with them last year. Sorry, they brought him in last year. So like they have guys. I'm not too terribly worried about the weapons around Hoover. And again, I don't want to over press the situation, but remember Hoover was a big name. Like this isn't just some quarterback. Hoover was a very highly touted player before he got to Indiana. A lot of people were wondering what he was gonna do and where he was gonna go. I still like we all thought it was going to be Mendoza's brother, right? And then they flipped the coin on us and went and got Hoover. So I think he's got plenty of weapons to do what he needs to do.
I mean, absolutely. I definitely understand that. I mean, for me, I think it starts with Nick Marsh in a sense, because Marsh brings excellent size, strength, after the catch experience. He had 59 receptions, 662 yards, and 6 touchdowns for Michigan State in 2025. He has all the physical tools to become Hoover's primary target. Indiana, if they're determined to get him going in the passing game, this is the receiver I think it's going to happen with. And I truly do believe that if he's going to have a breakout season, you're going to see him hitting stats in the 1,000 yard, potential area, to be honest. What do you think about Charlie Becker, who Becker is projected to be, a major starting role after developing within Indiana's system. Unlike several portal additions, he already understands Mike Shanahan's offense and Indiana's practice expectations. Becker's emergence could prevent defenses from concentrating on all their coverage on Marsh. So there's that. He is definitely another weapon out there. Recent outside preview described Becker and Marsh as receivers with elite upside. Do you agree with that? What do you think about Charlie Becker? And is he on the elite upside with Nick Marsh?
Didn't we see him at times last year? Like, I think I watched enough games that maybe I need to go back and just double check, but like, he was the other guy that at times flashed to me that I was like, kind of who is this kid? Maybe I'll pay attention to him. So now that you don't have those other two there that were kind of maybe opening up some of those possibilities, can you still open up the other possibilities for maybe the people around you? And that would tell me, yeah, he does have a lead upside. But
well, look at this. The guy is 6'4", 204 pounds, Mystic, right?
Yeah.
He had 34 receptions in 2025. He had 34 receptions, 679 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He was averaging 20 yards per reception on average.
I think he's going to be their big play guy.
You can dive even further in that, all right? And the reason you said that, Mystic, against Ohio State, 6 receptions, 126 yards. He showed up against Oregon with 2 for 48. Against Alabama, 2 for 51. Against Miami in the national championship, 4 for 65. Right? Like he was having a quietly good year. Like 680 yards is a good year for the number 3 wide receiver. Now he's going to he's going to be elevated, right? So is it going to translate? Being again, Nick Marsh might be the one. Charlie might be the one. Like we're just handing it to Nick Marsh because he has all the upside, right? But Becker knows the system. He's been in the system. I think they're going to lean more onto Becker because he has the knowledge of the system. Now, that being said, could the system change having a different quarterback? So there are a lot of questions, but I do think Becker is going to have a really nice year. He may even have over 1,000 yards. He's just a big body receiver with decent speed and really good hands.
So here's my follow-up question. We know they have the receivers. We mentioned that they have quite a few running backs in-house, the main guy being Turbo Richard. Will they remain committed to the running game? Or are they going to rely solely on this explosive offense that they have on the wide receiver side because they got two guys that can be on the boundary and, some other talent in the wide receiver room.
I'm just going to jump out of the gate and say, I apologize, but hell no. They're not going to go away from the run game. Because again, this is a Curt Cignetti football team.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to allow his quarterback to take on more pressure than he needs to. As much as this guy is hard on people, he's so good at making like drastic situations seem normal. And I think with, again, the turnover, bringing in a new quarterback, you do have a new weapon. You do have, you have some familiarity with some people, but the quarterback's still new. So he's still going to make sure that running game's going there, because then he understands having that running game is going to continue to open up those big play pass opportunities. I think that this offense has an ability to be potentially maybe more explosive than the one we saw last year, and I think that's dangerous.
Definitely dangerous. What are your thoughts, Steve?
I think Curt Cignetti comes from a coaching tree that believes in running the football. Nick Saban and his dad both were major run-heavy offenses about running the ball, controlling the time of clock, playing great defense. And that's what Indiana was built on the last 2 years. I think it would be insane for them to now go against the thing that got them a national championship. Like we said earlier, right? They controlled the time of a possession. That's running the football. That's doing what they do best and playing in the short field. I think they continue to do that. We would have to look at Cignetti sideways if he won a national champion and went, all right, we're just going to start throwing the ball all over the place now.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I think they're going to still, focus and stay committed to the running game. For me, we talked about how they had Hemby and they also had Black as well. It's going to be really Turbo Richard and Kobe Martin, I think. Those are the 2-1-2 punch that they're going to have. Who should they start? I don't really look at it that way. I look at it 1A, 1B. Same thing when they had Hemby and Black as well. I didn't think one should start over the other, to be honest.
I mean,
Richard. Go on, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's not even like it's a two running back room either. Lee Beebe had almost 1,000 yards in 2024. He was one of their lead backs that year. So even if it's the third, like he's a senior, I don't think he's, a lean on back, but he as a third back, just to keep the other two, fresh. I think they have a really nice running room. I don't think it's just going to lean on the two.
I agree with it too. I mean, I'm looking at the players. Turbo Richard's more explosive in space, capable of producing chunk plays as both a runner and a receiver. He could also contribute in the return game as well. His speed gives Indiana a home run element, essentially, right? You look at Kobe Martin, potentially more suited for inside running, pass protection, offers the size and physically needed against Big Ten defenses. So there's that. Could become a steadier early down option. I just don't think he's as explosive in space as Turbo Richard is. So I have it more likely that Richard's going to lead the group, but it's going to be a committee by committee style running back, right? I think they're going to, whoever has the hot hand is going to get the ball. That's how I look at it.
I know it's kind of obnoxious, but every time you say his name, I keep thinking about that snail movie.
Turbo. That's funny.
That is hilarious.
I think that's like the new norm now. I wonder how it's like a thing because there's a lot of athletes in college football that have that name. There was a guy Ohio State had, they were calling him Turbo Rogers, right? I don't know. I guess people are calling their kids Turbo now, I guess. I guess.
I mean, it's more fitting than Kool-Aid.
That's correct. Here's another question. Speaking of the running back room, and even for the wide receivers, what's going to matter the most is the protection in front of Hoover. That's what's going to make the difference. You look at Indiana, you have Carter Smith returns as a projected left tackle. Wisconsin transfer Joe Brunner brings starting Big Ten experience. Drew Evans, Bray Lynch, Abdemola Ajani give Indiana veteran projected starting 5. Our lads list Smith, Evans, Lynch, Brunner, and Ajani across the first team line following spring practice. What do you think? Is this offensive line going to be primed to have another great productive year, or is there going to be some learning experience? Is there going to be some trials or tribulation before they finally figure out how to click?
I think that they're going to have their moments right off the get-go, right? There's no way that you're going to hit the ground and be perfect with new faces on the front 5. But I think the first 2-3 games, in my opinion, is going to give them just enough time to figure it out, communication, get the cohesiveness, and be able to get, some momentum working forward into that mid part of the season.
Fair enough. What do you think, Steve?
I think they'll be fine. I mean, most of the line's been there for the last year. They may have not started, but they were there. Brunner's really going to be that right guard, going to be the transfer coming in, and then they brought in a nice youngster in Sam Simpson. So I think they'll, of course, like any offensive line, the thing about offensive line at the end of the day is, and I only say this with so much confidence because I heard Richmond Webb say it, right? You can have the best players on your offensive line, but if there's no chemistry between them, that it doesn't matter. Chemistry is the most important thing on the offensive line because you're hoping the guy 6 inches from you is going to move the exact same time you are in the exact same direction. So you almost have to think as one. I think they'll be fine. They'll have their hiccups, but I'm not totally stressing it. I think he's going to have a nice wall in front of him with these big boys, and this offense will continue to attack at the line of scrimmage in the run game.
Look, for me, it's not so much will they hold up. Can they hold up in Hoover's style of offense? And the reason I say that, Hoover's style involves holding the football long enough for immediate and deep routes to develop. Better protection could help reduce forced throws and interceptions. However, even an excellent line cannot solve poor decisions under pressure, right? So that's kind of like Hoover's interception rate through the first 4 games is going to be, key to hold on to before they really start to expand deeper into the season. They're going to have to learn quick on how to develop into that. One last thing about the offense before we start looking at the defense. The area that a lot of people have concern with the weapons around Hoover is the tight end room. They say that is the weakest link on this team. I'm here to tell you, as a Big Ten fan, being a fan of Ohio State, being a fan of just watching Big Ten teams in the Midwest, I'm going to say that's a weak argument. And the reason for that is that, do you think that, and I'm just going to point this out, right? They don't have, if you look at their recruiting classes, you look on who's on the team, they don't have that name recruit or player that you could say, oh man, this guy's a star at tight end. I can tell you Ohio State has had several stars at tight end. Do you think I ever knew any of their names before they even hit the field? No, I never knew who they were because they weren't that popular, right? Just because you see it doesn't look like they have a guy doesn't mean they don't have a guy, if you know what I mean. They got a guy named, for example, Brock Schott currently projects as their leading tight end candidate. Andrew Baker, Blake Theory provide additional depth, while freshmen Parker Elmore and Trevor Gibbs offer developmental upside. The group lacks established receiving production. Yeah, maybe they didn't use the tight ends as much. It could depend on the offensive scheme. But I think that, I think in Hoover's offense, they'll find a way to use them. I think that's how Curt Cignetti and Mike Shanahan's offense will develop or evolve to take that next step into next year. And a lot of people won't be expecting it either. I mean, it's the least proven room, but to me, that doesn't bother me at all. I mean, Mystic, to be honest, Iowa is tight end you. Do you really know who's going to be the star year in and year out? Like, have you ever thought, like, ever gone in the season? Yeah, I already know we got these guys. They're going to be the next big thing.
For Iowa,
because I can tell you, going into watching the last 2 seasons at Iowa, I didn't know who their tight end star was going to be. You know what I mean? They kind of show up. Did you know Sam Laporta before Sam Laporta was Sam Laporta? To give you an example.
So, kind of, sort of, like, so, okay, so, like, the one that's going on right now, I didn't know if Sam was going to get, obviously that big, right? But I had a feeling he could be good. So, okay, the end of this last season, I actually brought it up on the show. The tight end right now, I can't really pronounce his last name right. I hate chopping up. It's like DJ Vonamy. And he actually showed out in like the last like game or two or maybe last 3 in the season. So like, I'm expecting him to do big things this year. Like, he looks the part, blocks like 6'5", hands, runs routes. Like, he looks like he's going to be a problem.
Okay, fair enough. But you saw a glimpse of him already,
This
right?
is true.
For me, just because we haven't really seen glimpses of like, wow, this guy could be something, doesn't mean they don't have it there. What I'm trying to say is that every Big Ten team generally finds a tight end in every group to be their guy, right? So I'm not too worried about it, to be honest. When it comes to Indiana and their tight end group, I think they're going to be just fine. Any final thoughts on the offensive weapons together before we move on to the defense?
I mean, I pointed out, just to say it, because I brought up the tight ends for that reason. Listen, I don't care. You don't have to be the best tight end in the world, but when you're 6'5" and 230, 240 pounds, which are the 2 freshmen, one's 230, one's 240 almost.
Mm-hmm.
When you're that big, all you gotta do is catch the ball. Like, you don't have to be Travis Kelce. You don't have to be Sam Laporta. You can be Rob Gronkowski, who caught 5-10 yard passes and was such a big body you just couldn't tackle him. Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what Dalton Kincaid was for Buffalo? Like, when you're, or not Dalton Kincaid, the other one, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, the other tight end in Buffalo, but it doesn't matter. When you're that big, if you can catch the ball, you're going to be dynamic, especially in an offense that runs the football, because ultimately you're going to chip and leak out into the flat, catch a pass, and then you're going to bolt forward for 8 yards because you're just a massive human being. I think that's really what Indiana's looking for. I don't think they necessarily need that big seam threat, but I'm sure amongst that group, there's one guy who's going to, like you said, pop out. Oh my God, he had 700 yards this season out of nowheres.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was talking about, to be honest, 100%. So let's keep it moving. The big question is for the defense, can Indiana's defense remain elite after losing so much veteran production, right? You look at Bryant Haynes remains the defensive coordinator, preserving the system and terminology. Indiana still has several experienced defenders on this team, but many projected contributors are transfers or first-time, full-time starters, right? That's kind of what we're dealing with. It's a matter of experience, not so much the talent, in my opinion. The defense will continue using multiple 4-2-5 structure built around disguise, pressure, and disciplined run fits. Our lads identified Indiana defensive structure as a multiple 4-2-5, just so you know that. The biggest challenge in replacing communication and leadership, not merely tackles and sacks. Like I said, they have the talent, right? They just don't necessarily have the experience to build that continuity yet. And I think that's going to be like their thing that you're going to see built over time of the season, the more and more chemistry that they're going to build off of each other. So the defense should remain good, in my opinion, but matching the historically dominant 2025 numbers, I think there's going to be a dip. I just think they're going to be good enough to slow the other teams down, though. What do you guys think?
I think it's impossible to know if that defense is going to be as good as it was. I mean, you lose so many veterans. I mean, they still got the nose tackle. They still got a defensive tackle. Their linebackers are guys coming back that were there last year, but like new starting strong safety, new starting outside corner. You would hope, it's a plug and play and don't have to worry, but they play 4-2-5. They play a nickel defense. They play a multiple defense. So sometimes they're in 4-2-5, sometimes they're in base 3-4, sometimes they're in base 4-3. Like it just depends on who they're playing and how they want to align it. And I'm sure with these new guys, there's going to be some alignment differences versus how well they did it last year. Again, most teams and Halfley said this, the Dolphins head coach, and it is very true when you really pay attention to not just NFL but college football. Nobody stays in one defense. They play everybody plays multiple defense because it's just stupid when you're playing a pass heavy team to stay in a run package the whole game.
No, but I think what they do is they disguise their defense very well is kind of like the point.
They do.
Because you could be showing it 4-5-2 or a 4-2-5, for example. But the reality is you might have it on the pass heavy or even the rush heavy, depending on which way you're going with it. But I think it's gonna really be brought out when it comes to how you disguise it. And that's something they do very good. They were killing Ohio State and Miami with their disguised defense. Like there was at one point I was like, "There's nothing we can do at this point."
But that also goes down to the veterans, right? Because when you have veterans that have seen it all, you can do that. But when you don't have the veterans, are these young guys going to be able to read it as well as those veterans did? Because again, like we talked a lot about earlier about even prior, but like when the playoffs were happening, how Indiana had no 5-star recruits. They were doing this with 3 and 4 stars, but a lot of them were seniors. A lot of them were guys who had a lot of play experience where their star value didn't matter anymore because they had seen it all. And that's why I said it's impossible to know if this defense is going to be able to replicate the disguises because a lot of them, even though there are juniors and seniors, some of them are first-time starters. So we don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely understand. I mean, listen, D'Angelo Pons is going to be a huge hole that they got to fill, right? A lot of people are saying that Harris is the most obvious candidate because of his physical traits and experience. But Carson Williams, what do you think of him? Could he get some playing time, do you think? Indiana could also structure its defense to avoid asking one corner to follow the opponent's best receiver, right? Maybe they move more to a zone style defense. Does Indiana possesses genuine number one corner or several capable number two options? What do you think?
I just wanted to throw in my little tidbit here about this defense real quick. I'll let Steve take that question. I hate to give you guys anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the one unit that I guess I have a bit, the biggest question mark about is the defense. Like, what is this defense going to look like? Is it something they can rely on again to, get the takeaways and give the offense extra looks? Like, very curious to see how that comes out. But again, I would say I'm probably not as concerned because I know who's helping put it all together, and that's Cignetti, who, again, I just believe is building it right. He does it right, and he teaches these kids how the right way to do it and how he wants it done. And it definitely shows he understands how to get through to some of these guys for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It does come down to Cignetti. He usually knows the right calls to make and when. What do you think, Steve?
I think Cinetti's going to lean on the experience. To be honest with you, the guys who have the most experience, I think, are going to be the ones who end up playing on the field, mainly because of his style of defense. I will say this: if Mystic keeps this up, we're going to have to change the colors of his logo.
Oh, really?
He's sounding less like a Hawkeye and more of a Hoosier these days. I'm just saying.
It's okay. I like great coaches, you know. But I'm still, you know, diehard to the process, right? We know it's all Iowa, but I mean, the guy that Indiana, you know, made sure they kept in home, you know, who was from Indiana, you know, it's a Midwest guy, you know, so you know, shout out to the Midwest boys, you know.
Yeah, you're telling me. I think your new name on here is what?
Whoa, hey, whoa! What is this? What is this hackery here?
Oh man,
Where'd my backwoods go? I need a break.
Actually, you're back.
I mean, Mac doesn't make sense anymore since McDaniel's gone.
That's true. Or is he saying that not only is he a Hoosier fan, he likes the Mid-American Conference better? Is that what he's saying?
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. All right, everyone hit the like button, subscribe if you're brand new, turn on the notification bell. We're breaking down Indiana. We're deep diving the defense. What do you guys think of Elijah Hardy? Is he the next defensive star? Hardy recorded more than 100 tackles during the championship season. His speed, his instincts fit Indiana's attacking defensive structure. He became a leader who communicates assignments and keeps the defense organized. His ability to avoid blocks. I mean, Hardy has all conference potential. What do you guys think? Is he the next big leader on this team?
I mean, he can be the leader. I mean, his ability to blitz, he's fast. He's just small to me, which is why he's, a weak side linebacker. But I don't know if it will translate to the NFL, but we'll see that. That's a different question. But to the question of can he take another step and be a force? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he reads well. He's not, for his size, he doesn't lack in the run game. It's all there. I mean, them 100 tackles prove it, and it's not like he was, Jerome Bakering, 10 yards down the field, finally getting the tackle.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that. Look, the reality for me is that, I think that he has a lot of potential, and I think that one moment, please. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. What I just wanted to say was, I mean, to the point of earlier, there's just a handful of guys that have a very high upside. Some are already good. Some could be, great, if not potential elite. And you want to see those guys step up and say, hey, this is, I'm the leader of this team, or I'm one of the leaders of this team, and this is how things are. Like, you want to see that, and I do think that there's a very huge possibility that this guy's one of those.
So I got to tell you guys what just happened. I'm sorry, I got to stop the show for a second because this is hilarious, and I think the fan base is going to laugh their ass off on this. So my wife, right? A lot of people that know she's suffering from cancer and everything, right? But she tries to make joke of everything and live on the light side, if you understand what I mean. So we just get back from the hospital today. She's been released from the hospital and everything with what she had going on. And her sister brought over I'm not gonna lie. If you guys had my sister-in-law's phone number, you guys would be ordering cookies like crazy. She is a baker and she makes the best cookies you'll ever eat in your life. It is unbelievable, right? So she, my wife, creeps open the door. I had it locked so my kids don't run in the studio, and she creaks open the door. She's like looking like this behind just to see if I'm on camera. And the next thing I notice as I'm trying to speak to you guys, she's crawling on all fours to hide away from the camera to hand me a cookie. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? You know, it was so crazy. I was like, what the fuck? So, I'm sorry. It was just funny in the moment. You had to be here. And if you know my wife and the crazy things that she does, yeah, shout out to my wife, by the way. So I just had to share that moment. Continue. I didn't mean disrupting the show. Please continue.
No, I was just gonna say, Hardy has the production, but if I was gonna put my money on the guy who's gonna be a possibility of all Big Ten, it's their actual true middle linebacker, Isaiah Jones. Like both of them had 15 tackles for loss. They both had Isaiah had 7 sacks. Hardy had 8. So there's a 1 sack difference. But I mean, the man's 6'2". I think it's 2. I just had it. 6'2", 225, right? He has the build, he has the frame, he has the vision. Like between the two of them, that linebacker room's good.
I definitely agree. I think the linebacker is really good. But my biggest thing is like they got a lot of stars. They have a lot of talent on this team. The question that just keeps coming is, are they going to be able to replicate the production? Do they need to replicate the production? My question. Some people would argue no, because they think the offense is going to be better than what they were last year. Some people feel that way. So the question is, what version of defense are we going to get? I think we're going to have a good defense. I just don't know if we're going to have the great defense that 2025 brought, to be honest. Those are my final thoughts on the defense. But with that, the 2025 team protected the football extremely well while creating takeaways on defense, right? Can they continue the production of turnovers, which really helped them throughout the entire season? That's what really drove their defense, is the amount of turnovers they had, especially against big-time programs, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Washington. These are the teams that they're going to have to bring that production against this year. Last year, they had it against Oregon. They had it against, I want to say, Ohio State, Miami, and stuff. Can they bring that style of turnovers? What do you guys think?
Again, it's just impossible to know. You would hope so. Again, it's the same defensive coordinator, but there's too many fresh faces. You would hope. I don't know if they'll be the best defense in college sports again, but yeah, it's just too hard. The more you look at it, it's like, yeah, like AJ Harris, they got a lot of freshmen. Could they continue the turnovers because they have a strong linebacker core? Maybe, but it's too hard to say.
I think there's a really solid chance that okay. Again, I'm with Steve. Okay, it's very difficult to be the best in all of college football back-to-back years in the sense of like best defense, right? But I think there's a huge realistic chance we're talking about them being a top 10 unit. I just, again, back to what I said, I think this is the biggest question mark to the whole team is what are you going to get out of this defense? And what you get out of this defense is going to, in my opinion, dictate and generate how good and how explosive that offense can be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. Here's something I've been saying for the past 2 seasons, Mystic. You and I have talked about this a lot. Indiana was really built their initial program, specifically the last 2 seasons, off the transfer portal. That's how Curt Cignetti did it. He went and got older veteran players that have been playing college football for the past couple years, right? And really built up his talent and built the trenches based on that. And then slowly started transitioning to the recruiting program. I think this year is going to be a dawn of a new era for them, where they're going to definitely transition from the transfer portal and more in the recruiting trail now. They just landed, a 5-star wide receiver, 2027 receiver, Manshawn Sales, the highest rated commitment in the program history from what I'm reading. So Sales chose Indiana over programs including Texas, Alabama, Ohio State, and LSU. Yeah, and I heard there was real interest in Ohio State, and he still picked Indiana, so shout out to him. Understandably why. We're loaded at receiver, so obviously he's going to get probably immediate playing time when his time comes, to be honest.
And he's from Indiana.
And he's from that area too, on top of it. They ranked him the number 13 overall and the number 1 receiver in the 2027 class, while other services place him differently within the elite national group. Landing Sales matters almost as much symbolically as athletically because it shows Indiana can beat blue blood programs for elite high school talent. This also goes into that question: is Indiana on the cusp of becoming a dynasty or not? This is one of those building blocks or check marks that they need to check off. They still have a long way to go when it comes to recruiting and being one of those top 10 recruiting programs. But I think this is definitely a great start. What do you think? Is this the transformation from portal, buyers to recruiting buyers? Like, what do you think?
I don't know how I want to go about answering that, because I feel like things are only going to go up for Indiana. You're talking about getting one of their best recruits in the history of the program at that position. And I think there's plenty more to come at other positions through the course of Cignetti's time. Now, are we going to see all those together? Maybe. I don't know. I think if they get a bunch of top prospects at the same time, that's going to be a hell of a football team. But there's just something about this guy that, he did a whole lot with lesser talent. Yeah, they were veterans, but they were that on the lesser side of things, where I feel like he's only going to get more and more and more as things continue to go in the right direction for that program, which is just going to bode well for his success. He understands how to maximize players. And I think that's what makes him so dangerous. He understands the stages of college football, how to maximize at each stage and put his players in the best position to be successful.
You're on mute.
What do you think, Steve?
I think I think I stand on what I said earlier. He knows how to build the team properly. He's using the transfer portal to continue to bring in veterans to play along with his young team that he's trying to now build, right? We talked a lot about the team being really old last year, and it got him the national championship because he was using veterans to lead the charge. And he's continuing to do that, but he's starting to bring in more freshmen. He's starting to get better talent at freshmen, so now he can start elevating those freshman talent. Because again, like, it's fine to have a bunch of 3-star, 2-star recruits. They're just going to take time to develop, and it's harder to develop them. So you're hoping that they develop over time. Whereas, with 5-star recruits, you have a better chance of them being ready, in the first year or so. So I think he's building it the right way with what he's been handed.
I agree with that. Any follow up to that, Mystic?
Oh, I'm good.
Well, you asked this earlier, Mystic. What game should Indiana fans fear the most? Right? You have games like Ohio State, who has an elite roster of talent, revenge motivation after losing the Big Ten championship, capable of pursuing a Hoover and challenging Indiana's rebuilt secondary, right? So there's that. Michigan, physical defensive style, could test Indiana's new running backs and offensive line chemistry. Emotional, high profile Big Ten matchup. There's USC, potentially dangerous passing attack, could expose secondary depth. Or should they fear Washington? Difficult stylistic matchups and possible late season trap game, possibly. Most dangerous game, I would say, out of that is Ohio State. That game is going to be a tough game to win. But hold on. Let me just give you my thoughts, and then I'll let you interject. I think Ohio State's going to be the toughest game out of this. The one game that I think you guys should win easily is Washington. Out of that, I don't rate Washington like I do the other teams here. But go ahead. What do you want to say?
So I think of those games, I believe the Ohio State game is in Indiana, and I believe the USC game is in Indiana. I believe Michigan and Washington are on the road. So based on this team and where they're going to be, I think this team, like, yes, Ohio State, absolutely, roster is going to be hard to beat them. Absolutely. I think that team might honestly struggle going to play at Michigan with that environment and being just kind of, again, this whole offense in itself, defense in itself. A lot of these guys are all new to everything that's going on and being a part of this team and the camaraderie and the chemistry. And I could see them going to to Big House or whatever in that environment, maybe messing with them, right? There's really that situation. I could see this team being a super comfortable at home, plays good at home, but then has their learning moments on the road. I could totally see that happening.
What are your follow-ups, Steve? What do you think? Which game should they worry about the most?
I'm jealous of the schedule.
Why?
This is such a cake schedule outside of like 3 games. Damn. Probably Ohio State. I think Ohio State's going to be going into that game with a chip on their shoulder for the Big Ten championship game. Honestly, I think they're gonna want some revenge. They're gonna go in with a chip on their shoulder. I mean, USC, like you said, that offense. I think we questioned if their defense was going to be good or not. So I don't know. I don't know if that team's going to be able to stop the run, and Indiana's going to run all over them if they can't. Michigan's defense will be a question because again, like it's going to come down if they can stop Indiana from running the ball and force Hoover to throw it. And if a team can do that, then they have a chance. But then again, I think their defense is going to be good enough to keep them in. Hopefully, again, we don't know for sure, but I trust Cignetti with defense. It just is what it is. But yeah, I'd say Ohio State just because for the simple fact of they're coming in, they're going to be going into that game in Indiana with a chip on their shoulder.
I gotcha. Here's something interesting. Since 1989, how many times did Ohio State lose to Indiana? And I know you don't know the answer to this, Mystic, but I'm asking Steve.
I have no fucking clue.
Once. Since 1989, it's only happened once where Indiana beat Ohio State. And that was in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, but also, in all of that time, how many times has Indiana been good?
This is true. I'm not disputing that. That's not really the reason I brought this up. why I'm bringing it up is that yes, they were able to win outside of Bloomington, but they haven't beaten us in Bloomington yet. And I think that Indiana is it's gonna be a tough game. I just think that Ohio State's talent, across the board, their defense, their offense altogether, I think altogether it's going to be a very tough matchup. And I think that though it may be close, I think Ohio State has the edge on that team because I think they can get after Hoover a lot better. I think they'll eat up that offensive line a little bit more than they did this past season. And I think the receivers are going to be a little bit too much for that, that back room. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. The one game that's kind of interesting though, this USC game, we talked about it. USC is very talented. Lincoln Riley has really put together a team there, and that USC game might be the question mark game to me. Because I think it's kind of a toss-up, to be honest. What do you think about that USC game, Mystic?
What's funny is, again, I look at Curt Cignetti as the guy to look at every team, no matter how good your talent is. He's going to find the one thing and the one reason how to dissect your team and attack your team. And that's exactly what's going to happen in both of those games. He's going to find ways to keep teams exactly where he needs it. Like, it's almost like a Belichick thing. Like, it's so weird how he is always finding weaknesses in teams that you just don't expect. And I think he'll have a game plan for just the USC game, for instance. Maava, great quarterback, great weapons. Again, by that time, we're talking this team had already by week 7, we should absolutely know what Indiana's team is going to be and what they're going to look like. And basically have 6 weeks to tune up for what they need. That team is going to be, I think, pretty damn well where they need to be to show people exactly what I'm talking about. He'll be able to adjust, and it's going to be weird. I like Lincoln Riley. Again, I like the guy, but I think Curt Cignetti is gonna outcoach him. He's gonna have something for him on that day, and people aren't gonna like that I said it. But hey, people don't like the things I say. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to speak facts.
True. All right, so let's go to projections. Right, projection for me, I definitely think that Indiana is one of the top 3 teams in the Big Ten. I just think looking at, and actually let me take a look at their schedule just one more time. Because I know these are the main games. I just want to see when they play certain games. So let me pull that up real quick.
The best games are all late in the season.
Late in the season?
They don't play, so October 17th, October 24th, November 14th, and November 21st were the 4 games we were talking. And that's Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Washington. Before that, North Texas, Howard, Western Kentucky, Northwestern, Rutgers, Nebraska. That team should be 6-0, getting ready to host Ohio State Saturday, October 17th. Could potentially be a primetime game. We don't know. The time hasn't been announced yet.
Give me a second. I'm looking at someone else's schedule just to, because I'm going to give you I'm going to give you where I think they land and my prediction for the Big Ten championship game. Give me 1 second.
It's going to be a repeat.
I don't know about that, and I'm going to tell you why in just 1 second. Just bear with me.
Steve, put stealing the thunder, man.
Give me 1 second. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now, I think Indiana is a contender for the Big Ten. But my early prediction as of right now is that they finish 3rd in the Big Ten, right behind Oregon. Oregon has all the tools. They have the offense. They have the coach. They have the quarterback that is, you could argue, is in a contract year because it's make or break season for the NFL draft, obviously. I think that offense is going to be high flying. They got to play Ohio State too. And that is a game that I have question marks. I don't know like what's going to happen when they play Oregon at Ohio State. Man, the top 3 teams are going to be Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana. It could be that. It could be a repeat, but I think Oregon is going to be the big question mark. They're going to be in the mix. What do you guys think?
Steve, I guess I can let you steal the thunder, but yeah, go ahead. I'll let you have your take. I think I got a hot take here.
He's totally about to throw Ohio State under the bus. I stand on what I said. I think Indiana and Ohio State repeat.
Go ahead, do whatever you want to do. I'm giving you an honest assessment.
I'm honestly not at all throwing anyone under the bus. I think the one game that they lose is that possibility right there at Ohio State. I think they go 11-1 with a loss at Ohio State, rematch in the Big Ten, and they beat Ohio State again in the Big Ten championship. That's my take.
Okay, so
I'm not gonna lie. I thought you were about to say it was gonna be Indiana and Oregon just to have spite. I'm not gonna lie.
No. I'm with Ali. I'm here. Honest takes. Like I'm not trying to be no way. I could do that backstage. Come on.
Look, looking at my season, the team that I feared the most, everyone says Texas, you know what I mean? But I just have a feeling that Ohio State's going to come away with the win against Texas. I just feel that way, right? The team that I fear in my own conference, though, is Oregon. And we talked about it in previous shows. We all sat here talking about Oregon, how we thought Oregon was going to be a real contender, that they had a team that could really push for a deep drive into the playoffs. That's why I have them as my they're going to be the juggernaut on this if they make it or not.
I like what you're saying, and here's my thing. Ohio State plays Oregon. So if anyone's going to fall out, it's going to be Ohio State or Oregon. So in my opinion, it'll be Ohio State, Indiana, or Oregon, Indiana. That's my thought.
But they played early enough because we play Oregon mid-season, right?
I'm showing November 7th. So with basically 3 to go.
Well, is it? Hold on. Let me verify that.
Because it's a month after the Iowa game.
That's true. But I've seen it. We've seen it happen where a team will, take a loss late in the season, like November 7th, and if they win out, they could still finish top 2 in their conference.
Possible, right? Absolutely possible.
So my point is that Oregon, if we're going to sit here and say Oregon is, has the potential to be really great on every phase of the ball, right? Then they got to be one of the teams that could very vie for this championship. And for me, let's say they beat Ohio State and Indiana loses to Ohio State. It could be Oregon and Ohio State versus each other, or it could be Indiana versus Oregon. Or it could be Ohio State versus Oregon after Oregon loses to Ohio State. You know what I mean? So it just, we don't know. All I'm saying is right now, based on what I'm seeing, I think that Indiana has a great coach, great wide receiver room, has definitely viable running backs, no problem. Their defense has question marks, but they still have a lot of talent. I'm going to go ahead and say that Indiana finishes third because of the fact that they have question marks on their defensive side of the ball. That's why.
Yeah.
I think Oregon might have the more talented team, but they had the more talented team last year too. I think Indiana's the better coach team.
Did they have the most talented team?
I said a more talented.
I'll argue that Indiana, yeah, you could definitely say that they're the most coach team. Yeah, you're right. But also, you could also say they have the most hidden talent as well.
I think Oregon had a more talented team. I just think Indiana's better coached. He makes more out of the talent that he has. That again, that's my own take. That's just how I feel. Like it's just uh, again, Ohio State's a more talented team, but Indiana ultimately was better coached. That's what it came down to in that game.
Yeah.
They were better coached in how the game went out.
I like it. I mean, I agree. It's all great takes. I think again, if I'm going into each, Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, and I'm looking at the teams that they have to travel and play, I think Oregon has to travel and play has the two harder travels than the other respected teams. You have Oregon going to USC and going to Ohio State, or yeah, Indiana's going to Michigan, but I don't really think going to Washington, like we talked about, is too big a deal right now. You should be able to go handle that no problem, right? I think going and trying to take care of USC with that air attack, and then obviously Jeremiah Smith and the defense and everything that's going on at Ohio State, traveling there late in the season with playoff implications. I mean, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot for Oregon in these situations to maximize what they should do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. I definitely understand. It's going to be the who's going to survive the Big Ten. We've used that term a lot here as well. These three teams, Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana, that's going to be the biggest question, right? Who survives the season? Because you could argue Indiana has a cakewalk, right? As you mentioned, Steve. But there's going to be some teams on there that could be a trap game they fall asleep on. But I don't know if Curt Cignetti allows that, though. I don't think he'll allow them to fall asleep on a game. So maybe it is going to be a repeat. I really think that Oregon team somehow finds a way, though. Like I said, when we were talking about Dynasty, Steve, I mentioned Dan Lanning. I just think that Dan Lanning has showed so much promise that he really has to put it all out on the table this year. I think he really needs to. Because if he falls short again, who's that going to start reminding you of? I can name a coach that used to be the former Penn State coach, Coach Franklin. All promise, all big time recruits, led the whole season only to blow it when it mattered. Right? That's what it makes me feel like with Dan Lanning. He's the guy that people are saying he's going to be the next guy. He's going to be the next guy. People are throwing the bets down like crazy. He has to fulfill it. If he does it again, at that point, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? That's why I think he's going to put everything on the table. Go ahead.
I just think Indiana has the easiest record of all of them, and I think it's going to end up with the best or the easiest schedule of all of them, and end up probably with the best record because of it.
Fair enough. That's a fair argument. Completely fair. Completely fair. All right, gentlemen, let's hit the bottom line because I got a hot take that I really want to talk about. So yeah. If you're still with us, thank you for watching the show. We really appreciate it, guys. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're brand new, turn on the notification bell. This is Game Time Grind. We're here on the 4th and 10U network, and we talk. We're just fans that love the game. We're not experts. Maybe Steve is, but we're not, all right? And we're just here to have fun and talk about the game we love so much. While you're hanging out with us and checking out all the other content, make sure you check out Magic Mike Cards, right?
Magic Mike's Cards! Magic Mike's Cards! Flip that back, let's go! Hands in the air, we're running this show!
Definitely check out Magic Mike's Cards for your best deals when it comes to baseball, football, basketball cards. He's even doing Pokemon cards for those people that love that game, and everything. You can check him out on Whatnot or check him out on Instagram on @MagicMikesCards3. Definitely check him out. He can reach out to him, DM him. He can maybe hook you up with a good deal He has several cards that he has for sale, and he does live what do they call them, live breaks on Whatnot and everything. He's the guy that I got my Jeremiah Smith signed card from. Definitely has a lot to offer, so definitely check out Magic Mike's cards. Well, that being said, my hot take, gentlemen, I have a hot take for you guys. Before I give out this take, everybody in the chat, do you think Indiana is on the cusp of a dynasty? Put that in the comments or in the chat. Also, what game should Indiana fear the most? Should it be Ohio State? Maybe it's Michigan under a new head coach. New look Michigan. Should it be the USC game? High flying offense, big time quarterback, and really good coach on top of it. Or should it be the Washington game? I don't think so for the Washington game, to be honest. That's my thoughts. But on to my hot take. We didn't really talk about Cignetti and his what he needs to do to keep his coaching staff together, right? Because that's what is going to make this team still produce. Like we just said, Indiana has a lot of talent, but they're the best coach team, not necessarily the most talented team, right? You mentioned that earlier, Steve. Absolutely right. With that, it's not like Curt Cignetti is just sitting there coaching up the whole team all by himself. He has a full staff, offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, all the positional coaches and assistants and everything, right? How does he keep that coaching staff together? With success comes coaching turnovers, right? And there's a name of a guy that I think is the next guy in line that we really need to consider for a head coaching position from Indiana. And that's Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan, former tight end, played college football. Now he's been a college football coach for some time. He started off back with Pittsburgh as a volunteer assistant, then eventually became wide receiver coach. Then he joined up as wide receiver coach and running game coordinator with James Madison for several years before becoming the president, offensive coordinator, and wide receiver coach of Indiana, right? So I think 2 years of great production, winning a national championship. Let's say he goes into this season, deep playoff run. Maybe they don't win the whole thing, but they got a deep playoff run, successful Big Ten contention. I think he's a name to look out for. And I have a team that I think might be looking for a new head coach come next season, especially if it's the same old mediocrity that they have been for the last 3 seasons. And that's Wisconsin. Luke Fickell is the head coach there right now. And I'm going to be honest, I was kind of surprised that Coach Fickell was still there this season. I swear I thought Wisconsin was going to start looking elsewhere, to be honest, because I think they do need a change there. That's just my opinion looking at it from the outside, not even doing a deep dive into it, to be honest. But I could see him joining as a head coach in the Big Ten. Could Wisconsin be that team? What do you think, Mystic?
I think that's a good possibility. I mean, it makes sense. That's usually how coaches go. I'd be curious to see if someone tries to get something out of him this year during, the course of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that it wouldn't surprise me if Curt brought someone in and was able to kind of keep it plug and play with that offense, kind of schematically, have someone run it the way it's still being ran right now. Yeah, it might be, Shanahan's thing right now, but, you can still bring people who run the similar styles, right? So it wouldn't surprise me. But again, from what you said, this is a guy that followed him from James Madison. Same thing. So who knows? Who knows how deep some of the loyalties are? Obviously, you could tell Curt Cignetti is a very loyal person. So who knows how similar people within his staff might be.
That's true. I mean, listen, Mike Shanahan, I don't think there's any question of his loyalty to Curt Cignetti. I mean, he followed him from James Madison all the way over to Indiana, and rightfully so. He's the guy that's been the wide receiver running game coordinator for several years at James Madison from 2019 to 2023. Then followed Curt Cignetti over and became the offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach. There's definitely loyalty there. From 2019 to now. Definitely loyalty. The question for me more is Curt Cignetti going to let him go? You know what I mean? I think he should, to be honest. But I don't know. What do you think, Steve? What do you think?
I mean, even if Shanahan does pull at that 70 show, jumps into a Vista Cruiser yelling, "Hello, Wisconsin," I'm not terribly concerned. I mean, again, look at where, again, it goes back to where Cinetti's from, right? That Alabama Nick Saban influence. Saban ran through offensive coordinators like he was on a Plunko machine. There's another quarter. There's another quarter. There's another quarter, right? All them offensive coordinators, and that offense was always productive because of the style in which they built the offense to be. I'm not so much concerned about that. It's more of, at what point do they start to lean into the young guys and not live in the transfer portal for their quarterbacks and build that foundation for whoever they keep bringing in, right? Because Saban built his team to live in recruitment, right? His quarterbacks recruitments, you know what I mean? So I'm less worried about the offensive coordinator and more, I need to see him start to build through his recruits, not just his transfers. I think that's the bigger question for me.
Very good question. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Listen, another thing on top of coaching that and we'll talk more about this maybe on Tuesday or on a different show, but there was a great show I was watching, and I think I shared it with you guys. It was the triple option with what's his name? Stone, and Urban Meyer was there, and Ingram, right? And they were talking about the top quarterbacks in college. And Urban Meyer, put out, his thoughts on, how do coaches evaluate quarterbacks and what the most important things are, right? Part of it is that at some point, instead of bringing in talent from the transfer portal, Indiana is going to have to, at some point, start recruiting quarterbacks as part of that recruiting transformation that we talked about earlier. And I feel that and I'm nothing against Curt Cignetti, because I think he can do it. Does he have the trust in his coaching staff to be able to continuously coach young talent and coach them up? Because remember, this team has been solely pretty much built on players that were veterans of the game. They've already been in similar systems, or if not the same system. Remember, this we're talking about the last 2 seasons having one of the oldest college football teams in college football, right? So I don't know if he's going to have the patience to watch these youngins get coached up and put in starting roles when they finally have to start looking at using a brand new redshirted freshman as their starting QB at some point. You know what I mean? So that's something I think we're going to talk about in the future when we really start honing in on these top quarterbacks this season. But for me, when it comes to the coaching standpoint, I think that there's going to be a lot of questions answered early. But after this season, that's when we're going to see if he's just going to, honor Mike Shanahan for everything he's done and let him go. Or does he continue to keep the same staff intact? Because I'll tell you what, Ohio State, Texas, a lot of these top teams, they have coaching turnover all the time. three straight seasons, Ohio State had to find a new coordinator. They had to find a new defensive coordinator, right? They had to find a new offensive coordinator. They had to find.
Thanks, by the way.
Go ahead.
I said thanks, by the way.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? My point is they've continuously had to do that. You know, now we have Arthur Smith and what's his name?
Patricia.
Yeah, Patricia. Sorry, I couldn't even think of the top of my head. Yeah, Patricia, right? So the point is that, you know, it's very hard to hold coaching staffs together. Can he do it and still stay on top? That's going to be the next test. What are your guys' final thoughts on Indiana?
The final thoughts are kind of, more of the same. I think this is just the continuation of them being the uptick of what I believe to be potentially that next dynasty, right? The team that's going to win a couple championships here. They got one. I can see them getting 2 or 3 here again real quick. It's just something about, again, Curt Cignetti. The dude knows how to do it right. He knows how to lay the foundation. He knows how to put people in the right positions from, a coaching standpoint to a player standpoint. So it's going to be curious to see how this team unrolls itself through the course of the season, and if the defense can really put some things together, then I think we're going to be talking about, again, a more explosive Indiana this season, which might not bode well for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your final thoughts, Steve?
I think, to be clear on my feelings about Indiana, I just my pushback will be that they're close to being a dynasty or on their way to be a dynasty. I think it's still too early for me. I like Indiana. I do think they have one of the best coaches in college sports right now. I think he's that over the last 2 years that he's one of the best, not the best, one of the best. I think they have a very nice coaching bubble around the team. I like that the team has talent and that the coaching staff knows how to draw the talent out of the players on the field. I think they are going to be one of the best teams in the league. They proved that last year, and I think they'll prove that again this year. I think the Big Ten is better this year than it was last year. But I think, like I said, Indiana's schedule, I think, is so favorable for them that if they don't make the Big Ten championships, it's a failure for them.
Hot take. Big Ten offenses are a lot better this year than they were last year. But defenses, I'll argue, across the board have dipped down because of NFL turnover. So that's a hot take to have.
Actually, I have a question for the chat. I want to throw in on my final thoughts.
Go ahead. Definitely.
First, remember, hit the like, subscribe, share the show, get everybody involved in the conversation. We want to hear from you guys. And on that point, put down what teams you guys want to see us break down. We have the same question every single Tuesday after the show. What team do you want to break down? We ask each other that, and we come up with the teams you want to break down. Tell us who you guys want us to break down. Is there a specific team or a matchup or a rivalry? Anything. What you guys want to see us break down? Absolutely, that's what we want to hear from you guys. So just put it in the chat, and whichever one gets the most likes or has the most pop-up names, we'll break that down for you guys. We want your feedback and what's on the show. Again, this isn't for us, this is for y'all and us at the same time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Steve. Yes, definitely hit the like button. Definitely share this show with everybody and their mother, right? Any college football fans you have, we're not cliched to a specific team at all. Yeah, I'm an Ohio State fan. Mystics an Iowa fan. Steve likes some crazy South Florida team. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. No offense, Steve. I'm just messing with you. I'm messing with you. But he's a USF fan, right? For us, we just like talking about the game of college football, regardless if you play on the East Coast, West Coast, South Side, North Side, doesn't matter. Does not matter. So that's why we like talking about it. Share with everybody. Put what teams you want us to talk about in the comments below. Ask questions. If there's something you agreed with or disagreed with that we talked about today, definitely put it in the comments. We definitely like chatting with you all. Everyone, have a great time. It was a great one. Mystic, any final thoughts?
No, again, we appreciate y'all. We appreciate your time. Appreciate you looking through the, exclusive episodes. Again, I won't repeat too much, but hit that like button. Have a great one.
Have a great one.